Joe Lynham, BBC News.
Well, joining us live from Washington is Seth Kaplan. He's manager of commercial aviation magazine Airline Weekly. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. How damaging is this both to Ryanair but to the budget airline industry?
Well, it's very damaging to Ryanair in particular, as well as to the budget airline industry. You know, there was a time, actually, for most of Ryanair's history where it sort of felt like as long as it was cheap, that's all it had to be. It almost sort of thumbed its nose in the faces of customers. But that's changed over the past few years. It realized that to expand its market, it needed to appeal to people who wanted something more than just a cheap fare. And it's actually been touting itself now as being friendlier to customers. And actually, although it's always been sort of this no-frills airline, nothing fancy, it always had a rather good operational reputation. That was one thing that it always did rather well. It was on time. And so once its punctuality begins suffering, and as it's trying to turn the corner in terms of its overall reputation, this is indeed quite damaging.
One can begin to understand possibly the change in the laws about when cabin crew and pilots need to take their leave. That's obviously caused disruption. Perhaps one can understand other things, but to announce it and give passengers so little time, what was the reason for that, do you think?
Yeah, clearly they were trying to piece things together and must have thought they had a solution or were close to one and finally realized the numbers just don't add up. It's not unprecedented in the history of commercial aviation. I can think of other examples, including examples at, what we call legacy airlines like BA, where, suddenly they just haven't had enough crew time left. The problem is, as you've noted, Ryanair sort of almost didn't have a whole lot of goodwill built up with its customers, as I said, was sort of trying to change that. And so, for them, maybe even more so than most right now, to have something like this happen and just as it had invested so much in trying to change the reality, and then it always kind of takes some time for the perception to catch up with reality, damaging to their reputation. Not the only airline to whom this has happened, but one who could sort of less afford to have this happen than others, even in the context of the fact, let's realize Ryanair, of course, a very successful airline. This, isn't going to create any existential issues for Ryanair. It'll be fine financially, but not the kind of news it wanted to have.
All right, Seth Kaplan there from Airline Weekly. Thank